Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Who's amazing? It's me. So today we're going to continue to bash on feminists because they're an easy target. And I want to go back to what we were looking at yesterday. And the idea that you have to take a test to figure out if you're sexist or not. I'm pretty sure everyone's gathered that this test is not to find out if you're sexist. It's to find out if you believe feminism is true. And if feminism is true, then when they tell you you're sexist, you are a sexist. Bad boy, sit, behave. We don't want you displaying independent thought, or heaven forbid, you actually disagree with some of our points instead of just listening and believing us. Ugh. Now, I could do a video on why feminists are crazy, if I will in the future, but just now we're just going to go with daddy issues, were fiddled by someone when they were younger, or Gawker plus Tumblr told them so. I mean, that covers 99% of all feminists ever. Now, if you think, oh, Godking, that's a little bit arrogant of you, that's a little bit presumptive, how can you say things like this? What was the first question again? Oh yeah, women have a quality of purity that few men possess. So the first question reveals this writer's bias, and that's that she thinks all men are evil and inherently worse than women. That is the starting point. This is the question that you then continue on from. This just reveals just how insane she is. This point of view is then further cemented by the second question: women should be cherished and protected by men. And to agree to this is obviously somehow slightly sexist and inferring that women are weaker than men. This is a sort of crazy thing that you only hear from feminists and then you hear them refute themselves. And I can give easy examples of this because we've seen it in the last wee while. We saw it with people complaining that the Mystique X-Men poster was sexist. We've seen it at E3, where people were complaining that there were no female soldiers in World War I, and that people had told them the idea of having female soldiers was unrealistic. And people found this offensive. Of course, if anyone ever tells me I'm being offensive, then I feel sad for them, because they obviously live in this bright, vibrant world with no sense of humour, and the best option for them is to jump off a cliff and leave us alone. Because this is the irony in even bringing up this is the hypocrisy right here. Women should be cherished and protected by men. If you put forward the question like this, then women are disgusted, they're appalled. We are strong, independent women, we can take care of ourselves. But they get offended by a simple joke. They need safe spaces in case their law degree tells them about rape. This sort of thing is ridiculous. You can't have female heroes in video games because it might upset people. They don't want to see women getting beaten up. Oh no. But this is what I mean. You cannot have it both ways. You either accept that men are inherently stronger and that men and women are different and that men are built to protect women. That's why men get upset when women are sad. That's why you have the whole white knighting thing. That's why men are physically stronger, because it is their job to protect women. Women are the ones that have children. That's the way our sexes are. However, if you deny this, then you say you want not just equality, but you want equity, you want parity, you want things to be exactly the same. Then you have to realise things are going to get a little uncomfortable for you. If you want more women in video games, you need to accept that bad things are going to happen to them, or you're going to complain that they're not realistic enough. One thing that you often hear feminists say is that, men have to protect the princess or save the princess, or it's all about male power fantasies and video games and movies and books, and oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Who dies the most often in these movies? Who dies most often in these books? Who sacrifices themselves the most often? It's always the men. That's why when this whole World War I fiasco came up, I was so infuriated by the idea that men were being sexist by being the only ones who died in World War I to protect women back home. Sure, the women started getting bombed in World War II, but World War I, the women were in the factories. The women were doing their thing there, but the men were the ones out in the trenches. The men were the one out dying to shelling and mortars, to tanks eventually. And the idea that believing this is inherently sexist. It's disgusting, and it's degrading to all the men who are willing to sacrifice their lives for their country and for their families. Straight up, that's what it is. And of course, after all this, she then has the audacity to ask if women seek to gain power by getting control over men. Do you remember that whole white feather fiasco during the World Wars, where women tried to shame men into fighting? Because I remember being taught about that. I remember seeing that in the history books. Because men know that they want to protect women. They know that there is that inherent instinct, that inherent biological drive to protect them. And because of this, women can gain control over men. They can gain power over them by shaming them, by attacking their pride, by attacking their honour. But that doesn't matter, because in the end, it's all about the feelings of this one feminist here and how she thinks you should just worship her. And if you disagree with her, then that's sexist. So with that in mind, when you get to question 4, where she's asking, does a man ought to have a woman he adores? What she's wanting to know is, do you think that a man should take control of a woman? Do you think that he has some inherent need to need a woman, to want a woman, to own a woman? Because that's only she sees. She sees that men try and take control and be dominating and being evil to women. She doesn't see man's desire to adore and love a woman, to have her children. Well, not physically have her children, but have children with her. You know what I mean? But to raise a family, to continue on the human race. Is that not noble? Is that not a beautiful endeavour? No, it's all about male ownership. It's all about what the feminist thinks the male mind thinks. And I can tell you right now, feminists have no idea how man's mind works. This is part of the reason that when I look at question 5 and I see men are incomplete without women, I'm split, I'm torn, because so often a whole man's drive is to find another woman. And women pretend that this isn't a thing that women want. They pretend that having children is just some sort of optional thing. Look at the animal species. Look at every other animal in the world except us. What is their whole existence geared towards? So why would our existence not be geared towards that as well? The idea that men and women can just sort of live their own solitary lives and never have to interact because they're perfectly equal, this isn't a sensible reality. This is nonsense. This isn't the world we live in. Men can function without women, because in the end all they have to do is get a woman pregnant and, they feel great, they feel awesome. Man has sex with loads of women and he's amazing, he's a stud, because, well, he's not the one that carries the child. So when we talk about women hitting the wall, when they get to above 30 and they start to really desperately look for a mate, it's biology. It's their body saying, you've not had a kid yet, why have you not passed on your genetic traits? What are you doing? That's why you see women so upset when they discover that they're sterile. I had this happen to a friend of mine, and she'd never wanted children. But when she got told that she was sterile, when there'd been a problem, she was distraught for weeks. It pained her. She didn't know what to do with herself. Up until that point, the idea of having kids was terrible. It was something she didn't want. But biologically, it's what she was designed to do. It's what she lives for, to have kids. So the idea that men and women can somehow live separate lives and both be perfectly happy, that's a fallacy. And it's something that feminists refuse to accept. And it's just making women unhappier. And it's making men frustrated. You can look around, and you can see what people say. You can see how people are. Feminists are generally unhappy women. They're always shouting, always angry about something. There's the stereotype that they're fat lesbians with green hair. And now there's the stereotype that lots of guys stay at home and never talk to girls and they're just social outcasts. Well, feminism isn't helping this. Feminism is driving a wedge between the sexes, even just with a test like this, where it's telling you if you have common sense, then you're a sexist. we move on to number 6, and then include number 8 as well. Women complain about things more in the workplace. When women lose to men in a fair competition, they typically complain about being discriminated against. This is all things of, if women complain, then you're sexist. If you even admit that they might be complaining more, then you're a sexist. This right here, this is women saying you cannot disagree with us. Actually, no, it's not women saying this. This is feminists saying this. This is you telling you how you should interact with women to make them more unhappy. They're saying you should not disagree with women. You should never do this. And then after these two questions here are sandwiching number 7. Right in between one question asking, do you think women complain more often? And another one asking if they complain about being beaten in fair competitions. You have number 7. Once a woman gets a man to commit to her, she usually tries to put him on a tight leash. You know, by the sounds of it, you don't even wait to get into a relationship. It looks like you're just trying to put men on a leash anyway. This is just, they don't seem to be self-aware. The feminists don't seem to realise that by asking these questions, they're revealing their own hand. They're revealing what they're trying to do. But no. I'm just being silly. It's not like, crap, number 9. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is a thing. And then to question 10, where the woman's saying it's sexist if you don't believe that women are morally superior. And don't you dare argue, because number 12, if you believe feminists are making unreasonable demands of men, then you're also a sexist. It's this sort of twisted logic where they bring up a point and then they beat you down. They tell you, if you believe this, then you're a sexist. And then they bring up what would be a counterpoint and they say, that also makes you a sexist. And they say, no, don't disagree with us. You go, why shouldn't I disagree with you? Because we're morally better than you. But wait a minute, I don't think that's, don't be disagreeing with us. That's sexist as well. You need to just listen and believe now, my son. You need to just assume that everything a woman ever says is gold. This is what the Gospel of Feminism 7:15 tells us. That women never lie. That women only wish to spread goodness and peace throughout the world. And people then wonder why nobody likes feminists. So that's why feminists ruined Star Wars 7. I'm really glad that we got to the end of that, and that's the conclusion we came to. It seems like the logical one. But serious talk, if you need to create a test to try find out if people are sexist, there's a high chance they're not sexist, darling. I'm the arrogant Godking, and don't worry, I'll be back.